right, it is Tuesday night, a little later than normal, but we're back after a couple weeks off. A vacation and a work trip, and now we're back ready to talk NCHC hockey as we get closer to the season. I'm Mike, as always. This is Wes, and how are you doing tonight, Wes?
We got the electrical gremlins coming back from a break. This is what happens when you don't know what you're doing. You don't make sure to check everything after a couple weeks.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
it'll
we've
happen.
I think we've officially shaken them out though.
Hopefully we got them all. If not, kill them with fire. But don't burn your house down. I wouldn't recommend doing that.
Yeah, that would not be a good idea. Will you please? Now what's going on?
You okay over there?
No, now it's like frozen. I don't know if it's my phone, if it's YouTube. Oh,
Hang on.
I hear things now. All right, I think we're good. I think it's just a smidge behind. I think we can get into what we were going to get into. Um, which was, go looking a little bit deeper into the new 3-team pods that are coming next year. Nothing in the NCHC changes this year, but next year we've got a little bit of reformatting as it comes to scheduling. And I mean, I think they did as geographically, I think they did a great job with these. I think maybe they're all pretty close. I think the only real team that seems to have a distinct advantage at this moment is Denver out west. The other two are historically competitive, or recently and or historically competitive. Aside from the fact that Duluth has more national titles in the last few years than the other teams in that pod, but even North Dakota has captured one here in the not too far history. So I mean, I think they did a really good job with it, but we'll look into them a little bit more. But it's just kind of your first take at looking at what we've got.
I think excuse me. Looking at what we have, I think there is a bit of a distinct advantage for a couple of the teams. I think geographically, yeah, it all makes sense with UMD, North Dakota, and St. Cloud all being together, and we we play St. Cloud twice a year anyway, um, so that's nothing different. North Dakota typically play them twice. Um, I do think Western, yes, there's some competitiveness there, but for as far as regular season goes, I think there's a little bit more of an advantage there with having Miami and Omaha, and then we don't know what Arizona State necessarily is going to bring in conference because they're playing a completely different style of play. And Colorado College is a team on the rise, so I think the Central Pod or Central Division, if we want to call it, I think that's going to be the most competitive consistently, um, and might take away a little bit of an advantage. But I think they did the best job that they could because I don't know how you would do it any other way.
Yeah, no, I mean geographically, it was definitely the way to do it. It's going because it breaks down so nicely, uh, the way they have it set up. But really, the East, what we're going to call the East, being that Western Michigan, Miami, Ohio, Nebraska pod, we're going to refer to that as the NCHC East. At least I'm going to, because it's easiest to
Yeah,
remember that way.
yeah, exactly.
Is really a rock paper scissors of a pod. Western usually plays pretty well and beats Miami more often than not. Western struggles a little bit against Nebraska Omaha, and they seem to have our number. And yet, for some reason, Miami seems to do very well against Nebraska and has a little bit of an advantage or is super close to being 500 with them. So it's a little bit of a rock, paper, scissors scenario there. Um, the Central, is literally a toss up every year. These teams are usually stacked somewhere in the division or in the conference. Last year just so happened to be 4, 5, 6.
Yes.
So I mean, they and in years past they've been 1, 2, 3 or 2, 3, 4. They seem to find each other in the standings and cluster together. And then the West, yeah, I think right now Denver has a little bit of a leg up. Arizona's still trying to find out what they're gonna be, and that we might see them change a little bit coming into the NCHC. They've been a pretty solid 500 team in the independent ranks. Colorado College has struggled a little bit in the first 10 years of the NCHC, yet has found themselves in a couple championship weekends, playing for the title last year, fighting through, the 2 out of the 3 top seeded teams in the conference. But right now, the West seems to be feels like it's going to be dominated a little bit by Denver and what they do. But they're a different. They're going to be a different team next year too. So it'll be interesting to see how everything shakes out in that first year. But I do still kind of like going into this a little bit more and seeing what we've got.
Yeah, and I think no matter how you sliced it, there was always going to seem to be one division that was going to be tougher, quote unquote, tougher than all the rest. But at the same time, like you just said, with Colorado College playing for the conference title last year, college sports changes so often, especially this conference with new kids in, recruiting, different coaching staffs, the style of play. Each division, there's going to be one that's weaker every year. I just think right now, based off of past performances, there's certain teams that have it easier, but who knows? Within the next 3-4 years, the West could be the most competitive one. One team out of the Central can just blow away, and right now the East, even though you guys play each other fairly closely, Western kind of has the leg up, in my opinion, for moving forward. But I mean, shoot, we don't even know now that we're basically through all the COVID stuff. We don't know what teams are going to look like come next year with guys going, and I think a lot of teams are going to become really, really young, so that can change the whole landscape.
I mean, we do still have the transfer issue, but yeah, I do agree that in at least the recent past, Western is the strongest team in the Eastern side, having most recently finished second and third at least the last 2 consecutive years, back-to-back trips to the NCAA tournament, a win, the first win for the program back in 2021, with a strong team performance and beating what was considered to be one of the best goalies in college hockey at that time, who's now playing for the Buffalo Sabres and showed really well in his first few games at the NHL level in Devin Levi. That Central, that's still a toss-up. It has been every year. St. Cloud's coming off of the Frozen Four, and really none of this will mean anything when we look at the actual first year with these pods, and we might have a different opinion in a year from now when we're looking at this. But Denver has definitely been the strongest team and looks to be the strongest team, at least in the West, for at least a few more years, while Colorado College continues to build its program. And it'll be interesting to see how Umberco does in the second season of NCHC hockey. Can he avoid quite literally the sophomore slump? These guys are still college kids, so he is a legit sophomore as far as the college world is concerned. And we do tend to see, freshman goalies come out, have super strong years, maybe a little bit of slide that second year. And sometimes they can pick it back up and have really strong second or third and fourth years. It would have been interesting to see what Brandon Bussey would have done his second year, but he had that injury and kind of got a reset year having to rehab and heal from that injury. And then he came out and we saw what he was his third year, which was really his second year playing. But it's such a unique circumstance that I don't know that you can compare a lot of what happened with him to other goalies. But Dominic Bass, I think he had a pretty good freshman year at Colorado College. The team kind of struggled around him. He had a really good year last year with St. Cloud switching, trading time with Jackson Castor. It'll be interesting to see what Ludwig does with a new team in front of him in North Dakota. All of these things, like, they play into this, and it's going to be, now you face a second team 4 times a year. The balance of the schedule is going to be interesting to see how things play out. We've seen this conference come down to the final weekend year after year, and I don't think that's going to change any. You're just going to have to really rely on these 2 quote unquote home pod series with each team. So these 8 games to really build your NCHC season on. And we all know that winning in this conference, especially winning 2 games on a weekend, is something that no team takes for granted and every team wants to accomplish, but every single one of them knows how hard it is to do.
And I think, like, we see it, especially Big Ten football with the now it's going to be completely messed up with all of a sudden deciding to add California with USC and UCLA, but the schedules change every year because you can only play so many games, and there are not 10 teams in the Big Ten, there's like 37. So if you're good, it's not going to really matter, and at least from the trajectory that they're on, Denver is not. It's not going to matter for them for a while. If you're good, you're good. You're going to win. You're going to beat whoever is put in front of you, and make those deep tournament runs and keep moving. I think the interesting part is going to be the teams lower down on the totem pole with where they've been, and how the schedule favors them. Because if you're like, say, Miami, I guess they're probably the best option for this. If they only have to play Denver once a year, for most of the time, that's going to help them. Whereas a Colorado College, they're playing Denver twice a year, 2 weekends per year. So that might hurt them a little bit more than it helps them.
But they've always been playing Colorado College 2 weekends a year, and
right.
They struggled the last 2 years against Colorado College, and Miami has to play Western 2 weekends a year, and they've struggled to win a game, I think, the last 2 or 3 years too. So the Western Miami matchup and the Denver Colorado College matchup has had similar results the last few years. Just Western hasn't quite reached the peaks that Denver has.
Mm-hmm.
I realized the pun that I just made, and I'm slightly proud of it, but also embarrassed by it. But Denver peaks.
I got it.
It's a fucking thinker there.
I'm just happy you did that unintentionally, and then realized it's the pride that went over your face, where you're like,
Yeah. But that's the comparison. You haven't really seen that so much with Nebraska and North Dakota. Nebraska kind of had North Dakota's number a little bit this year, but I think they swept the regular season, and then didn't they go to game 3 in the playoffs? That was just a straight battle all year, and it was always a straight battle between those teams. So yeah, really those two are the only 2 teams that kind of lose out in this deal, and they don't get to continue that rivalry on a yearly basis, getting 4 games out of it. But always an extremely competitive series between those 2, and then St. Cloud and Duluth, another series that was generally extremely competitive. It was hard for either team to sweep a weekend, let alone a 4-game set. And we do get to keep that rivalry so we don't lose that one, which is a good thing because that one's so historical, just between those two teams, and not one that they wanted to give up, and might even have been part of the reason why St. Cloud was brought over in the first place, was to give Minnesota that long running rivalry. Well, they did have North Dakota, but I think this one,
Right.
there's still something different about an in-state rivalry as opposed to, an out-of-state rival.
There is definitely there definitely is a different feeling, um, especially lately over the past 5, 10 years, us having played them, and even the last couple 4 or 5 matchup. Really, come on, North Dakota. There's It's more the fans than the team necessarily, because there are, especially in northern Minnesota, there's a lot of North Dakota fans as well. But it helps that we're even closer to St. Cloud than we are to Grand Forks as far as driving. So the fans can go to each other's arenas, and that
Yeah.
that makes it a lot more fun.
And I mean, and that's a series you had to keep too. Like they had to find a way to keep that one, and and
Mm-hmm.
and really take it a step up is what they did here, uh, because of the history between those two teams. I mean, that team has given us probably some of the best moments of NCHC hockey since the inception of the conference. That huge 5 overtime game uh, completely changed the landscape of the NCAA tournament. I mean, now there's a day off in between games, and it's because of the Minnesota Duluth North Dakota rivalry that pushed the game that far and had to rely on all four. I think all four goalies played. Um,
I think so. I mean, goalies are literally cramping up and saying no mas.
yeah, and so I mean, like you had to keep that one going and provide some moments for those kids. And again, like I said, the only one that really loses out here is Nebraska Omaha, but they've played Western really well. They've played Miami pretty tight and close. I think it's going to be competitive with them being in the East, but they were starting to build something special, having to play North Dakota every year, 2 weekends, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that will kind of suck, but they'll still get that opportunity every couple of years to get those two full series with them too. And you have to play everybody, so I mean, it's not like we're completely losing out on any of these matchups. And maybe the matchups mean a little bit more because you might say, all right, well, I guess I'll have to wait and see you in the finals, and then we'll take care of business then.
Yeah, and it's we're not losing out on it. It's just one series per year instead of 2 series per year. So it's like, okay, you got us in this one, but we're gonna get you at home. Like you got us at home, we'll get you at home. Now I think it actually puts a little more emphasis on different series and the preparation to go into a series when you know you're only playing a team once, because now you don't have that, like, okay, we know what they did this weekend. You only have one game to make an adjustment. And so there might be some more sweeps in a weekend than we've seen. I'm not saying it's going to jump immensely, but it might, say, or for the whole season, say we get 7 sweeps, there might be 9 sweeps, and like, so I'm just throwing out numbers. I'm not paying
Well,
attention.
let's play. Let's go down this road. Will there be more sweeps, or will there'll be less sweeps because you have fewer opportunities? If you're the team that won, or the team that lost, and you lose the game too, you now have to wait an entire year, and it's an entire different team to play again, unless you're making the playoffs and you happen to meet up with that team that you only play one weekend in the playoffs. If you're that losing team, you want to come back that next game and put a stamp on it because you're not gonna. If you're a senior, you're like, well, that's potentially the last time I play those guys. I'm not going out on an L. I'm gonna make them take the L, whether it's home or away. It might push some guys to try and play a little more. Okay, thank God you blinked. Um, I was like, did he drop? And then you blinked. I was like, all right,
Yeah.
we're good. But yeah, like I think that might be part of it. Or if you're the winning team, like, hey, they're gonna come even harder tonight because they don't want to walk out of here. Those seniors don't want to walk out of here their last year taking an L, but we're gonna make sure that they do, and because this is the last time we're playing them here in our barn, and we're not giving up anything on home ice.
Yeah,
So it's an interesting psychology and dichotomy
it
to
is.
break down and look at and see where it can go.
'Cause I think it would just be something interesting for, even just next year when we're going into it, kind of this time next year, to look at how many sweeps there were this upcoming season within the conference, and then going through the 2024-2025 season, um, towards the end of that, and looking at the end of the season, okay, this is how many sweeps happened last season, this is how many happened this season, and just to see where things go, because I do think it's going to change how series are played.
I mean, you go ahead and you do that math, all right? You keep that spreadsheet.
I could do that.
I'm honest. I can't wait to see the full first year schedule. It's going to be interesting with, because someone's got to buy every week as far as NCHC play goes. You can't make 8.5 matchups a week. Maybe the only way. I mean, maybe if you did something. What is it? It's not Hockey East.
Oh, the ECAC.
Yeah, they do like one game against one opponent Friday and then different opponents Saturday.
But they're all within like half hour from each other.
Yeah, you're not doing that in the NCHC either. Just because of the travel schedule would be ridiculous.
That would suck if you were going from Denver one.
No, bro. You've got you're Western. You've got Miami, or you've got Arizona Friday, Miami Saturday. Like, get out of here.
I mean, yeah.
Who's scheduling that?
Where I was going, like, if it's UMD, you're going Denver, Miami.
I don't. Well, I mean, I would hope that you're kind of looking at that and you're going, okay, we could do Western at Arizona Friday, Miami at Denver Saturday, switch those two teams around. Then they're only making one trip out west. Colorado is playing both Minnesota schools, Nebraska, and whoever, make it make sense. But even then, I think you're still leaving teams out. It's going to be interesting to see the schedule makers play around with this 9-team format and figure it out.
The other thing that you could do, which would make things even more interesting, I think, is instead of the non-conference being at the beginning of the year, but you have to work with all the other conferences too, which I don't think is going to work. But then whatever team technically had that bye week, they play one of their non-conference opponents, where it's all of a sudden UMD in the middle of the regular season, they're playing Providence or they're playing UMass or
who all I know. Big Ten also has an odd schedule, odd number of teams because they only have 7. Who?
Yeah, I don't know what they. I don't know what they do.
Well, let's see if I can pull up their schedule. If they have announced their conference schedule. While we're here, see, this is what we do. We get stuck in a rabbit hole and then we figure it out. We go load up our answer gun or question gun, and we go and answer hunting. Stop. Settle down. No, I want your schedule, you stupid thing. Sports. Stop. Behave. Thank you.
I was looking what they did last year.
That's what I'm doing. Pulling up their sched. Pulling up the old schedule. First week, October 21st. Nope, that's not. Still not. That's still. It looks like they just kind of mixed it in because I mean, Western started playing. Western and Michigan played each other. Everybody else was conferenced. Then they nope.
Like...
Then they just buy it. Well, probably because this is on the Big Ten schedule, and if
but it looks like they just gave.
They make
later in like January, February. It looks like one team just has.
They bite it out, or they had their non-conference games. Because November, Wisconsin played Lindenwood, but it also looks like Michigan has a bye that week, or at least on one of those days. Oh no, they played a Thursday, Friday with Minnesota. Wisconsin played Lindenwood. Penn State played Alaska Fairbanks on a Tuesday, Wednesday. What? Oh, what? That's a tournament of some sort? What is that? No. Notre Dame just played a Wednesday, Friday. What the hell? I don't understand the schedule. Well, what the heck? This is the weirdest schedule ever. But yeah, they just kind of mixed it in because Ohio State played Long Island November 26th. Minnesota played Arizona State. Michigan State played Miami. That's when we were on our way to Chicago.
Yep. Harvard played Michigan.
Yeah, Harvard played Michigan. Then they had a full Big Ten schedule with another team sitting out on a bye. That time it was Notre Dame. Yeah, it looks like they do a little bit of both depending on how they can schedule it. And I mean, I guess it's up to the whoever makes college hockey schedules, whether it's the ADs working to figure something out, whether it's the commissioners of conferences trying to figure stuff out. I have no idea who does it. I think it's a little bit of the universities themselves and a little bit of the conference, but.
Well, and then the other interesting part is just going to be when the conference tournament hits. How are they going to do that?
Yeah, and I mean that's another thing we can kind of look at the Big Ten for what they do. I think their first.
So, would you please not try to fall off the bed? Come here.
I think they have somebody that gets a bye.
And I think for the Big Ten with the 7 teams, that makes sense because then you have the 1 seed gets the bye, 2-7 matchup, 3-6, and 4-5. So that gives you 3 other teams to put, and then they have their semifinals and finals.
Yeah.
But with 9 teams, I was trying to do this in my head earlier, and
yeah, I don't know how it works with freaking 9 teams. There's a weird hiccup or glitch. It's like trying to figure out the orbits of the other planets, and you end up with all these backwards freaking reverses and skips, and who knows what the hell's going on there. I'm not Copernicus, all right?
I mean, maybe what they just say is to make it more competitive. If you finish last, you don't play. But at the same time, I want more hockey, not less.
I mean, everybody plays in college, right? Has there ever been a situation where the low team or the 2 lowest teams didn't play in the conference playoffs?
I mean, other than football, there's.
Because I think I want to say even when the CCHA had like 12 teams in it, I think everybody played, but the top 2 teams still got a bye in the first round or something.
Oh, I'm dumb. That makes sense. It's okay.
So I don't know. we'll get to the schedules when we finally actually see one and see what it looks like in the playoff picture. But
Playoffs make sense because I was looking and I'm done. 8-9 play in, so they play one more series, and then they face one, and that like it would probably be one game, an 8-9 play-in game, and then they play the series against the one seed, and then go into the tournament.
yeah, that seems weird too, though.
It
I
seems
mean,
weird, but that's the one that makes the most sense.
does it though? I mean, I guess.
Because that way you're having whoever the lowest seed is, no matter what, you're having 8-9. So what the one seed is going to play the lowest seed, no
Yeah, that's
matter
true.
what.
Yeah.
And then everything lines up where
I just
the 4 or 5.
But then you either have to waste a day if it's only a one game play in, right? Are you asking a team to play 3 games in a weekend? Potentially 4 games in a weekend, because remember the first series is best of 3. I doubt they're going to do that. Are they taking an entire weekend to play one series and everybody else sits out a week before the playoffs? So like that in between, but then you got to deal with the NCAA tournament. I don't think they're going to push their stuff back just for one conference and one game.
I think maybe you do it.
How the X,
sucks, but maybe you do it in the middle of the week.
I mean that's true, because there have been plenty of times where we have seen teams play like 9. What was it? I think Western once played 9 games in the first 3 weeks of the season or something stupid.
And you look 2021 with what UMD had to do with St. Cloud. It was a series. We had a series.
Yeah.
Played St. Cloud on a Tuesday. Had another series. Played them like the following Tuesday. So.
Oh yeah, everybody did that. They had that weird break in there.
Yeah. So I think.
I mean, even and then look at the pod. I mean, the pod wasn't week. That was games spread across that entire month. Mm-hmm. It wasn't just weekends. There's definitely some leeway here. It just gets. You also have to be careful with that time of the year. You're asking kids to play extra games here and there, and their bodies have already taken a season's worth of a toll on them. Mm-hmm. Granted, the college season is not as long as some of these junior seasons or the NHL season or the AHL season or even the ECHL season, but you're still putting risk on guys who don't get paid to play. Like, some of them may make money on their namesake now, but you're still increasing the risk without really increasing the reward or the potential for a reward. And some of these guys have already got NHL teams backing them, or at least that they're responding to or responsible to, or some form of those words that makes the most amount of sense with the way college hockey works and the draft rights and everything like that.
Yeah, it's an interesting question, but then I mean the nice part is, yes, it's a tough season, it's a long season, especially in this conference, but they do have Sunday through Thursday basically to recover instead of Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. It's not back-to-backs throughout the whole week or every other day. So there is that, to ask them to do one game in between there. I think they'd enjoy that, and then again, it's more incentive to not finish 8th or 9th. If you don't want to play that extra game, go out and win games. And I don't want anybody hurt. I don't. But I think that's the way to.
That's what it was. I've definitely seen Western play five games in 9 days. I think was their schedule one year to open a season, and it was just ridiculous. A lot of fun, but kind of ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. It's fun for us. Maybe not quite as fun for the for the guys playing. But I mean, at least for me, when any sport that I played, I like playing games a lot more than I liked practicing.
For sure. Yeah, so I mean, I guess if you look at it that way, it might be that first, maybe it's a one game play in that Tuesday. It seems like Tuesday is generally the day they pick because you get Monday, Tuesday off. You play, or you get Monday, Sunday, Monday off. Play Tuesday. Wednesday, Thursday are technically off days. Thursday's probably your travel day. And then you got Friday, Saturday, potentially Sunday. That could potentially be a possibility there for something to work. And then you're not wasting an entire weekend or making drastic changes to the end of the season, which is extremely hard to deal with the way that contracts and everything else work out for these NCAA bids and shares, building space sharing and stuff like that. So
yeah, and I depending on the teams, if we just go off the last couple of years, that one game play in, it sucks for travel because either CC was going to Miami or Miami was going to CC. Just they're traveling across the country for one game. It's a lot of travel, but again, don't finish last.
Yeah.
At least if you're gonna finish last, at least be the 8th seed. Don't be the 9th seed.
Yeah. Or hope that Arizona's the 8th seed and then just go to Arizona in March when it's still decently nice out.
And just stay there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff coming down the pipe, and always something worth talking about for sure. But I think we're gonna call it there, unless you've got anything else. We're close to 40 minutes in. We had that quick hiccup.
I think I'm good. This is just something that will, especially as we get close to next season, we'll take more of a look at because we're only a few weeks away from getting ready for the start of college hockey.
Yeah, I think next week is the start of individual team episodes. I believe is what we figured out. We'll figure it out after the show. But I'm pretty sure next week should be the Colorado College episode. Looking at their roster if it's out, looking at their complete schedule, which should be out. Maybe making some predictions on games. We probably won't go through the whole schedule like we have in the past, just because it's a lot of repeat once we get deeper into the NCHC teams and matchups there. But definitely worth a look to see who's coming back, who's gone. Some key matchups, first game, last game, what they got going on during the holidays, I think might be a good spot to. Maybe we'll go first game, last game of non-conference, first game, last game conference, and then like holiday break. We'll hit those games since those are the big ones. I think generally give a good idea, where the team is a little bit into, or post non-conference, you have a good idea where your team's going to be. Before the break, you have a pretty good idea of where they could be and if they need to step up or continue what they're doing. And then at the end of the season, your seeding is pretty much, your seeding is determined at that point, and you got to figure out how to play through it. So we'll look at those matchups and things like that, and then we'll do that until college hockey's here. Winter is coming, and with it comes the great sport of college hockey.
Yes, it does.
So I guess there's only one thing left to say, and that's pucks on net, good things happen, like goal horns and fight songs. Until the next episode, you can follow us individually at Twitter. You can follow us as a show on Twitter. That's scrolling by right now. If you want to drop us an email, there's an email that's going around somewhere. It's the show at gmail.com, goal horns and fight songs at gmail. It's all spelled out because it seemed easiest that way. I don't know if it was. Yep, that's it. We're out of here. Have a good one. Bye-bye.